This is Dr. Bev Knox, and you are listening to my Psychology Tutorials, Learn Psychology While You Sleep. How does the meaning of gender differ from the meaning of sex? We humans share an irresistible urge to organize our worlds into simple categories. Among the ways we classify people as tall or short, younger or older, smart or dull, one stands out. Immediately after your birth, or perhaps even before, everyone wanted to know, is it a boy or is it a girl? Before we consider that interplay in more detail, let's take a closer look at some ways that males and females are both similar and different. I would like to go over some definitions first, however. I may repeat myself a few times to foster your understanding. Sex. In psychology, the biological influence characteristics by which people define males and females. In psychology, the biological influenced characteristics by which people define males and females. Gender, on the other hand, in psychology, is socially influenced characteristics by which people define men and women. So again, sex in psychology is the biological influenced characteristics by which people define males and females. But gender in psychology is the socially influenced characteristics by which people define men and women. So what are these similarities and differences? What are some ways in which males and females tend to be alike or differ? Whether male or female, each of us receives 23 chromosomes from our mother and 23 from our father. Of those 46 chromosomes, 45 are unisex. Our similar biology helped our evolutionary ancestors face similar adaptive challenges. The average woman enters puberty about a year earlier than that of the average man, and her lifespan is 5 years longer. She expresses emotions more freely, can detect fainter odors, and receives offers of help more often. She also has twice the risk of developing depression and anxiety and 10 times the risk of developing an eating disorder. Yet the average man is 4 times more likely to die by suicide or to develop an alcohol use disorder. His more likely list includes autism spectrum disorder, color blindness, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. And as an adult, he is more at risk for antisocial personality disorder. Male or female, each has its own share of risks. Let's take a closer look at 3 areas: aggression, social power, and social connectedness, in which the average male and females differ. The definition of aggression is any physical or verbal behavior intended to harm someone physically or emotionally. Aggression. any physical or verbal behavior intended to harm someone physically or emotionally. Relational aggression. An act or aggression, physical or verbal, intended to harm a person's relationship or social standing. Relational aggression is an act or aggression, which is either physical or verbal, intended to harm a person's relationship or social standing. In romantic relationships between men and women, minor acts of physical aggression such as slaps are roughly equal. Social connectedness, whether male or female, we all have a need to belong. Though we may satisfy this need in different ways, males tend to be more independent. Even as children, males typically from large playgroups, boys, games, brim, and activity and competition with little intimate discussion. As adults, men enjoy doing activities side by side, and they tend to use conversation to communicate solutions. When asked a difficult question, "Do you have any idea why the sky is blue?" men are more likely than women to hazard answers than to admit they don't know, a phenomenon researchers call the male answer syndrome. Females tend to be more independent. In childhood, girls usually play in small groups, often with one friend. They complete less in intimate social relationships. Teen girls spend more time with friends and less time alone. In late adolescence, they spend more time in social networking internet sites. And as adults, women take more pleasure in talking face to face, and they tend to use conversation more to explore relationships. The gender gap in both social connectedness and power peaks in late adolescence and early adulthood. The prime years for dating and mating is during that same time. Teenage girls become less assertive and more flirtatious, and boys appear to be more dominant and less expressive. Gender differences in attitudes and behaviors often peak after the birth of the first child. Mothers especially may become more traditional. By age 50, most parent-related gender differences subside. Men become less domineering and more empathetic, and women, especially those with paid employment, become more assertive and self-confidence. So, although women and men are more alike than different, there are some behavior differences between the average woman and man. Are such differences dictated by our biology, shaped by our cultures and our expectations? Do we vary in the context to which we are male or female? We will find out in the next module.